So now we are only 3 days away from the NFL draft. We're about to find out exactly what the Packers are going to do in this draft with the probably most picks we've had in a long time in the first 2 rounds. 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks. And so with that being the case, I think for me, I think there's a very high chance the Packers come out with a wide receiver in the first round. But I wanted to discuss a probably more shocking scenario to most Packers fans, partly me, including myself. If this were to happen, I may be a little shocked, but I want to talk about what if the Packers decide to pass on wide receiver in the first round once again? Because as we know, the stat, the Packers haven't ever been a team to really like to come in and draft wide receivers in the first round. And if we look back in the past, the last time they did it was in 2002, picking wide receiver Javon Walker in the 2002 NFL draft. So since then, the Packers haven't picked a first-round wide receiver. And I think, of course, looking at this draft, looking at the Packers' current scenario, we lose Davante Adams, the best wide receiver in the NFL. We get back another first-round pick. So in this draft, the fact that we lost a receiver, we need some more speed, we need some more receiver depth, and the fact that we have 2 first-round picks, it really does seem like this will be the year the Packers break that 20-year streak of not drafting a wide receiver in the first round and come in and draft a wide receiver. So when we look at Thursday night, if the Packers come into that draft and they leave the first round without a wide receiver, I think many people will be like, what the heck are the Packers doing? Are they crazy? Do they not know we need a wide receiver? And so with that being the case, I definitely think there's a chance the Packers don't draft a wide receiver. I think that if they look at their, at pick 22, if they decide not to trade up, which they potentially could, we'll see what happens. If Brian Gutekunst is like, let's trade up, let's not trade up, we'll see what happens. But I mean, if the Packers are there at 22, and let's say 4 or 5 wide receivers are off the board, and the Packers don't like the wide receiver options at that point in the draft, and they think they can get a couple guys later in the draft, whether that's the second round, third round plus, if they think they can do that, I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers decided to do that. Who knows who Brian Gutekunst likes? Who knows, which wide receivers the Packers have their eye on? Because I think if you look at the wide receivers, clearly a guy like Jameson Williams, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, some of those guys, if they were to fall to the Packers at 22, I definitely think the Packers should take them. I also think, like Treylon Burks as well at 22, I would like that pick. I think he's a beast. He's a monster, a big guy. He's fast as well. Even like a Christian Watson, there's debate on, when he will be drafted. Is it the first round? Will he fall to the second round? Who exactly knows? But if we take a look at the Packers at 22, I mean, there's a few other guys who can make sense as well that aren't wide receivers. If George Karlaftis fell, edge rusher, Devontae Wyatt, defensive tackle, some offensive linemen like Bernard Raymond, Tyler Smith, Zion Johnson, guard, some of these guys. And also, too, I think a position that isn't as widely, I guess, discussed is like safety, the safety position. We obviously have Adrian Amos as well as Darnell Savage coming into the last years of their deal. And we'll see if the Packers decide to do that 5th-year option with Darnell Savage. But a safety like Lewis Cine or a safety like Daxton Hill, I think lots of those guys could make sense. And so if the Packers are at 22 and they pass on wide receiver, and then they're at 28 again and also pass on wide receiver, I think obviously the big discussion, in the sports media world will be the Packers once again aren't helping Aaron Rodgers out. They're not getting him a wide receiver that he needs. And honestly, this year I would be more shocked than past years that they didn't draft a wide receiver just because, as I said earlier, having 2 picks in the first round, obviously the odds of drafting a wide receiver, I'd say go up. Because if we only had 1 pick, I'll be a little bit more like, okay, I don't know if we're going to draft a wide receiver. I'd say right now, like my percentage-wise of where, like the percentage chance I think the Packers draft a wide receiver, I say like 74%. So that's my percentage factor. Let me know yours in the comments down below. But I did actually just put a poll out on my channel asking you guys, do you think the Packers will draft a wide receiver or not draft a wide receiver? And right now on the poll, with an hour into the poll, I said, will the Packers pass on wide receiver in the first round? 37% said the Packers will pass on a wide receiver in the first round. So maybe more people than I thought think the Packers won't actually draft a wide receiver, and maybe that is because of the fact that they just haven't for 20 years. And are they going to break this streak? Is this really going to be the year to break this streak? 37% of you guys think they're not going to break that streak. You guys think that they are going to continue on of not picking wide receivers in the first round. And honestly, if they don't, I won't care. I would prefer the Packers to draft a wide receiver in the first round. But as I've said, I trust Brian Gutekunst. He's had a pretty good history, I'd say, in his drafts. And so if he passes on wide receiver, it's probably because he doesn't like the options. He likes options probably later, round 2, round 3. So if he does, if we're sitting here on draft night Thursday, after the draft, Packers don't draft a wide receiver, I'll be a little sad because honestly, I want to see a first-round wide receiver come here to Green Bay. I do want to see that. But if we don't, I'll be like, okay, well, Brian Gutekunst must have some other ideas. He must have another plan here that will probably be smart. But I do think another, scenario in this draft, when we look at the Packers defense, when we look at all the pieces they've brought back, from Devondre Campbell to Rasul Douglas to signing Jaron Reed to having pretty much this entire unit here that we had last year, and then also getting Jair Alexander back healthy, to have Jair, Eric Stokes coming into his second year, Rasul Douglas, Darnell Savage, Adrian Amos, Devondre Campbell, Kenny Clark, Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary. This Packers defense, I think, is already stacked without adding draft picks. So if the Packers come in here and decide to go like defender, like let's say defensive line, interior D lineman, edge rusher, safety, any mix of those in the first round, this Packers defense, I think, is going to be pretty scary for the next few years. And so maybe the Packers defense could sort of, help, obviously, the offense out if they're stopping teams time and time again. And so if the Packers decide to come in here and load up on defense even more, I wouldn't be opposed. So we'll see what happens. Who knows? We're going to find out in 3 days. But if you guys want to stay up to date with all Packers news, draft content, when all the Packers draft picks coming up Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I will be putting it all out on this channel. So make sure I subscribed, the notifications are on, so that way every time I make a video, you get it notified right away. But that is all for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.